So my Amazon remote started working intermittently. It was extremely frustrating. You hit the button, sometimes it works, sometimes you hit it 5 times, starts working, then it stops working again. It's driving me crazy. So I went out on YouTube, looked for videos, and all I could find were videos of people telling me to change the batteries or to resync the remote control because it lost synchronization. Obviously I changed the batteries. I resynced my remote to my FireTv or Firestick. Nothing helped. In fact, I couldn't even resync the remote because it wasn't being detected. I went out to look for a new remote and they ran about $30, so I got aggravated and decided it's time to take this remote control apart and figure out what's really going on here, because electronics don't generally just die like that unless this thing took a bath, which it didn't. So spoiler alert, I took it apart to figure out what was wrong and was able to repair it. It was designed poorly by Amazon. It relies on contact pads for the power from the batteries to get to the board within the remote. It's easy to fix once you take the unit apart. Let's take a look at how you do it. Okay, so here we have our misbehaving Amazon FireTv remote. So as mentioned before, this remote was working intermittently, meaning you hit the button, nothing, no response, no response, no response, and like the 5th time, then it starts working, then it stops working again. So yeah, totally intermittent functionality. Tried new batteries, tried unpairing and pairing again because of the intermittent functionality that made it very difficult. So then I got aggravated because I know the electronics are fine in here. It just seemed like it was a power issue, so I took it apart. So let's show you how to fix this thing. So, first of all, Amazon made it not very easy to take apart because they don't want you fixing things, they want you buying new ones, right? Well, stick your flathead screwdriver, a small one, something like this, in the top right. You're going to have to jam it in there. It's not going to be pretty. You're just going to have to pop this all the way around. I already did this off camera, so it was a little bit of a savage activity, not going to lie. But eventually you'll get it coming apart, something like that, and then you're just going to have to manhandle it and open it up. And the PCB's at the top, so you're not putting too much flex on it. It's got a bunch of screws holding it in place, so moving this thing around, don't worry, you're not really flexing the PCB, you're not going to break anything in there. Once you get it apart, now we see the problem. So you've got 2 AAA batteries powering this thing in a positive, negative configuration. And once you get inside of here, you realize, oh, well, Amazon didn't solder these connections to the board or run wires like any normal designer would for longevity. They have these contact pads. You've got 1 spring pad, 2, 3, 4 spring pads. What happens over time is these things lose tension and then they don't contact 1, 2, 3, 4 pad areas, right? So you've got good voltage running through here, which I'll show you in a second, as that's the first thing I checked. But it's not getting to the board because these are not making proper contact with these pads. So let's take a look at the voltage. Let's put some batteries in here just to see how this works. Negative, positive. Flip this over, go to the multimeter, and what happens, these are not wired in series. You've got your positive up here and your negative down here, which translates to positive, negative. You see 1.5 volts right there, all the wires in the way. So it's not, this battery is actually an independent power or circuit than the other battery. We go over to this guy, we go up here, on this other pad you get 1.5 volts again. So 1.5 volt circuit, 1.5 volt circuit, 2 separate circuits. Why? I don't know, and I don't care. So all you need to do once you've got this open is kind of stretch these guys out, all 4 of them. So you're going to go under one of these pads, peel this guy up, not too much, just enough to get it going. I already did these, so I probably shouldn't do it again, but peel this guy up. This guy, since it's independent circuit, it'll actually fly out of there. It happened to me before. I'll do it obviously like that. Don't worry if that happens. Just put it back in. There you go. It's back home again. You want to make sure these stay somewhat square because, again, you've got to land on these pads. Same thing with these 2 spring clips. Go in there, hold it down with your left finger, right? If you're righty, I guess. Pull this guy up. Give it a little stretch. Give this guy a little stretch. Good deal. Now, take your remote And since we savagely pulled this apart, since Amazon didn't want this to be easy to take apart and repair, what you're gonna need to do is take some crazy glue or epoxy or whatever your glue of choice is, put it around the perimeter in a nice clean way. Before you do that, you should probably test also with these spring clips in the middle. Make sure they're in the channel. See that channel? If it's out to the side like this one just was, not gonna work. It's gotta be in the channel. Because when it's in the channel, that's what gives you the alignment to properly land on these two pads. So now we're gonna put this back together. You'll notice you have this cylinder on this side with the batteries. You got this protruding stud on the PCB side. That's your guide. That goes in that hole. And then all you're gonna do is put crazy glue before you sandwich this together, put it all the way around. I think I'm gonna use crazy glue actually. And because there's tension in there, it's gonna wanna come out. You have to crazy glue it and then put a bunch of rubber bands around this to kind of clamp it in place and let it dry for a few minutes. Then it should be sealed back together and you'll be back in business with a repaired, fully functional Amazon remote without spending 25 bucks for a new one. Okay, let's glue this guy back together. So we stretched out all our contact points. I'm just gonna go in here and add a little crazy glue to the areas that I see were separated when we pried this guy apart before. 1, 2, little guy at the top. Put some in there, try not to make a mess. Try to be quick, a little bit for you. A little bit for you. Some down here, especially where the tension is around this area is going to have some stress. Right there, right there, right there. Make sure you test this before you glue it together. Make sure it works right. You can hold it with your hands. Once it's glued, it's not going to want to come apart so nice again. Little down there. Okay. That's some pretty good crazy glue, by the way. This Gorilla stuff, I'll link to that in the description too if you need it. Let's get this guy lined up. Remember, post at the top into cylinder. Oh, can you see it? At the top. Now we've got it lined up. And we're just going to take a couple rubber bands and make ourselves some clamps. And that's a lot of tension, especially with these thick guys out there. Let that sit. I might actually put one in the middle too, remember, because that's where our spring clamps are. We want that tight. And get one more rubber band. And ladies and gentlemen, this is another example of manufacturers building things to break for you to buy new ones. And a quick and easy fix. After 5 minutes, we'll go test this out, see how it works. Okay, I came back upstairs for one final test with the offending Amazon Fire TV over there. As you can see, the rubber bands are still on my remote because it's still drying. The buttons now work perfectly. 0 problems with intermittent connectivity. Pretty simple fix. Overall, this was a very satisfying fix to a problem that was caused by a bad design by Amazon. If they would have just soldered those power connectors from the battery to the board, we wouldn't be facing this problem in the first place. Sure, we were able to fix it at the end of the day, but in my opinion, it was a design flaw, and it's one of those examples where a manufacturer designs a product to not last the test of time. If those connections were soldered, this remote would probably last forever. If you enjoyed this video, please click like. Also, please consider subscribing. It helps us to grow this channel. We really appreciate every subscription we get. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below, and I'll answer any questions you have regarding this repair. Stay tuned for more mods and projects.